Hello viewers, welcome to MBTV Weekly Property Roundup. We bring to you top 5 developments from Indian real estate space which is going to have a lasting impact on you as a consumer. I am Prasun Kumar, Marketing Head of Magicbricks, and with me is Jayashree Kurup, Senior Real Estate Journalist and Editor-in-Chief of MBTV. Jayashree, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Prasun.
So, lots of development last week, but the first news that came was a service tax ruling, which is likely to give realtors some sort of a relief from GST payment on developmental rights. How big is this play going to be?
You see, the ruling was on, suppose you had a plot of land and you gave it to a developer to rebuild it. The service tax ruling was, whether GST was, the transfer of development rights that you get, would that be taxed? Do you have to pay GST on that? The idea is that you don't have to pay the service tax, and therefore by association the GST should also not be applicable on that.
Okay.
Now the corollary that the GST is not applicable on transfer of development rights is something that a lot of developers can quote as a precedent and get benefit out of it. Therefore, it has a lot of ramifications. Let's see how it evolves, but this court ruling is something that I see a lot of developers cheering about.
Sure, and it will mean more money at their hand to deploy on projects. Good, and finally it seems Jewar Airport, which has been in making for decades now, are going to see light of the day?
Yes, I think after the new government has come into power, and I think the policy mechanism is shaking itself into place. Once the new government is sworn in, the suggestion is that the Jewar Airport will be notified, there will be action on the ground, and that's likely to have a significant impact across the Yamuna Expressway, the Greater Noida and Noida market.
Right. And considering these markets have been struggling for quite some time now, this is more than a welcome news for them.
Much needed boost to this market.
Right. And redevelopment has been such a big area of focus area per se for lots of municipal corporations across cities in India. And we have seen some good examples there as well in each way. But then there have been challenges as well. And, the news comes that in Mumbai, BMC has declared 500 buildings to be unsafe. Now, considering there are so many accidents and buildings are collapsing, across old buildings are collapsing across cities.
Let's go into the issue. It's an important issue. The city governments have seen, like you said, a lot of buildings have been collapsing in the rains and so on, and earthquakes, rain and so on. And these are old buildings, 100-year-old buildings, and we have living cities, right? We have a lot of living cities.
Absolutely.
Now, in these buildings, if they are high-rise, especially in the Mumbai area, high-rise buildings have a certain life, and beyond 100 years it needs a lot of infusion. Now, because they were stuck in the Rent Control Act, a lot of landlords have not done much because they were getting a pittance by today's standards, and therefore not much investment has gone into the upkeep of that asset. The asset has crumbled, it has become unsafe to live in, but the people who live there are still paying rates that prevailed about 70 years ago.
And don't want to leave.
They don't want to leave because they'll never get another house of this nature.
And at that price.
And at that price. Now, if they leave from here, they will have to pay a lot, and they are hanging on thinking that the landlord will give them the compensation to leave. In many cases, the landlords are not interested. They'd rather let that asset go than pay off so many tenants, and that's where the problem comes.
And considering there have been massive litigations also between landlords and tenants, old tenancy and the rent, etc. This is a complicated stuff.
See, the Rent Control Act has been eased in most places, but these old areas, the Rent Control Act still prevails, and that's where the problem lies. Anything that's gone into rent control, the landlord more or less loses the ability or the interest in maintaining those assets because the returns are not
So is that
viable.
one legislation that should be reviewed?
See, rent legislation review is happening in India, across India, at the central level, at the state levels. Whether it's a larger issue at the bottom of the pyramid, where people come into the city, new migrants come into the city, or people who can't afford to pay very much. We haven't planned for low cost housing for rent. Now, there is a new legislature in the works, and a lot of work is being done around it, where can you provide policies that allow the private sector and institutional money to come in to create rental apartments, institutional rental apartments, which can be given out at low cost.
Yeah.
Or,
that's a good solution.
Or subsidies to those beneficiaries who are deserving. So it's a very complex subject, and a lot of work is going on. Therefore, important that we picked up this issue today.
Yeah. And in Noida again, the JP issue doesn't seem to be heading anywhere. Now NBCC has submitted the bid, and committee of creditors reviewed that. Now it seems lenders are putting conditions to NBCC to really approve their bid. Now how much of this is going to impact the end consumer who's going to
wait endlessly? Yes. The consumer has waited for more than a year now, and we are no closer to a solution. But there are two or three things here. The lenders who should have raised the alarm bells a long time ago when they were part of the board, they never did that. They allowed the whole project to go into a loop, and therefore they're trying to find out a solution. I don't think anyone thought that a bank of buyers would come up and say, what about me? Buyers were always taken for granted. Now the buyers have become militant, and the lenders feel that NBCC is putting too many conditions. NBCC, being a government agency, does not have the right to go outside the written word and say that I will take on all the responsibilities. Anyway, this is very important because what NBCC does today will be a precedent for all the other litigations that have gone in NCLT. And NBCC says we can look prospectively, but we won't take any retrospective problems. The lenders, knowing that it's a government agency, is trying to make NBCC get other government authorities to give it the rights so that it won't go into another loop. Now, everybody is taking advantage of a situation. The lenders actually are to blame, squarely to blame for allowing this mess to happen. But the lenders feel that if at this stage NBCC is pushed to take the approvals from other government authorities, it's easier for the NBCC to get it than.
Difficult to believe, such big lenders, big corporate houses not having enough checks and balances in place to let these things happen over a period of time.
Prasun, what has happened in the Indian housing market is as shocking as what happened in the US subprime crisis. This is no less than a subprime crisis. In that case, the mortgages were being given to individuals who didn't have the ability to pay. But here, the lenders have lent to those people who had no ability to build.
And probably intention to build.
Ability and intention. JP had the ability to build, but did not have the intent to build. And that's where the lenders should have, the financial muscle should have been exercised, but it didn't happen. And I think it's shocking because tens of thousands of people have paid up all the money, and they're waiting, they're paying their EMIs, they're paying their rental, and they are struggling. And the sooner we find solutions.
This gets murkier and murkier, unfortunately. But one word that I picked up, what you just said was buyer militancy. I think there's one kind of militancy that everyone should be proud of, is positive militancy, and maybe more of it should.
And Magicbricks has been supporting the buyers. We feel that finally the buyer has become militant. It's your money, fight to save it.
And RERA has been active therefore, and supporting consumers across states. And now UP RERA has come out with show cause notices to builders on stuck projects, right? This is to deregister your projects, right? So does it impact RERA's jurisdiction over developers in any which manner, and how is it going to help buyers if these projects get deregistered?
Many of these projects, the developer may have put up his documents, but the final registration does not happen because there are missing documents, there are missing approvals, the money is not there. Even after that, if you give a timeline, for instance, on RERA, when you upload your documents, you have to say, give a construction linked timelined plan. Now, developers are defaulting on the timelines. So what does RERA do? RERA can issue notices to them. Despite the notices, everyone's hiding behind this veil saying, I don't have enough money. But like we've said in our earlier shows, when the same guy who says I don't have enough money ties up with somebody else, raises resources and launches a fresh project. So RERA has decided that we are not going to let this happen. In some cases, the corporate veil is lifted. You're able to see where that money trail was and try and bring that in, and the defaulters are not allowed to create another corporate entity. In the other case, what RERA is doing is, even if you deregister the project, re-register the project with new co-developers, with the buyers as a very important entity, and RERA monitoring the whole thing, so that the whatever money and receivables are there, bring it into a common pool and make sure that the projects.
Does this lead to cost escalation for buyers?
In some cases it can, but considering the cost of delay is
and
so
not having
high
a home.
and not having a home, for the buyers, it is like at the end of a very, very long tunnel, saying that if I put this much money and somebody is protecting my money, can I see this project through to completion?
Sure. Wish all RERA get as active as some of the RERA that we do see.
I think UP RERA is trying its level best. The problems are the most in this part of the country, but UP RERA is trying very hard to, and we see announcements every day. It's not that one announcement leads to a solution, but at least they're trying to figure out how to untangle this very, very complex case.
Yes, wonderful. So this is it for this week. Next week we'll come back again with top 5 developments from Indian real estate space that is going to have a lasting impact on you as consumer. Till then, keep watching MBTV.
Thank you and have a great week.
Please subscribe to Magicbricks on YouTube and click on the bell icon to get more videos.